So, John, yes, thank you. Welcome to my latest podcast episode. John here is a partner of Brock Carmichael based in Liverpool and who have just celebrated their 50th anniversary. John, if you would like to introduce yourself, please, the practice to our audience and tell us about yourself, the history and of course, this big landmark anniversary you've just gone through.
Thank you, Nick. Yes, we're 50 years old this year. Practice formed in 1974 by Peter Carmichael. Peter was the chief architect at Runcorn Development Corporation. Once that project was finished, he needed a practice to start with, and he and Martin Coppin formed Brock Carmichael. And we're still here. Very much different than we were at the beginning. The practice originally came out of Runcorn Development Corporation and was therefore very housing orientated. And housing has been the mainstay of our practice probably for the last, certainly for the last 50 years. Housing in all its forms. Today, we're a different practice. We are more into high-rise residential, leisure, master planning, education, and we now do work in Asia. So the Asia connection came from the Shanghai Liverpool Expo. I'd say, I can't remember what year that was, probably some 20 years ago now. We've had a good run in Asia, doing lots of master plans, and we're currently about to go on site with a project in Bangkok. But back home, as I say, our main sectors are housing, and that's housing in all its forms: high-rise, residential, private, and social housing through our RPs. Industrial, storage, warehouses, distribution, leisure, hotels, restaurants. A lot of conservation comes across in most of the projects that we have, because obviously the clients tend to purchase listed buildings. We also do a bit of education, and the education, as I say, is primary schools and some secondary, but mainly private education as well as public education.
Are most of these projects local to Liverpool, or do you tend to cover the whole of the UK? Or
No, we work across the whole of the UK now. In fact, the vast majority of our current projects are not in Liverpool, unfortunately. Just the way the market is, the profitability of projects in the south tends to draw our clients to the south, and hence we're there. So we're currently working in London, in Bath, in Bristol, and in Birmingham, and all is good.
Good, yeah. But I know Bath well. I live just outside of Bath. I'm 10 minutes from Bath Centre, so that's local to home for me. So how, going back to the practice then, you're 50 years old. You mentioned your history and when you started. So size-wise then, roughly how many staff do you have now?
30 including the partners. It bounces around a bit as private practice does, but 30 is the optimum. When in the past, when we worked on Liverpool 1 for the Grosvenor organisation, which was a tremendous project, having done 6 buildings on the project, more than anybody else, or any other architect, that is. I think we were up to about 50. But we find 30 is a workable group.
Yeah, and of course we mentioned I will be showcasing. Obviously, I own Architecture Vogue magazine. I'm showcasing some of these projects that you've mentioned from across mainly residential, but some leisure, hospitality. Some of these projects as well will be featuring as well within the magazine, which is great to share with the audience. Some context to what you've mentioned, obviously, so people can actually visualize some of the work that you've done, which is good. Tell me about your 50th year celebrations. I noticed you put some social media out around that recently on LinkedIn and what have you. What happened with all of that?
Well, we decided that obviously reaching the milestone of 50 years was obviously a big achievement, but rather than being backward looking, we made it more of a forward looking promotion. We invited all our current clients. We held it in the Sky Bar, which is a 360-degree, very large restaurant facility on top of the Inside Hotel in Liverpool, from which, near to the waterfront, I add, from which you could see the whole of the cityscape of Liverpool. So it was great to point out from 18 stories up which were our projects. And then a little bit of a whimsy, we put illustrations on the windows in acetate, but a little bit of whimsy was to point out that X thousand miles over there was the Singapore office, and X thousand miles over there was a project that we did in Bangkok, or we've done in Bangkok, etc., etc. So it was a great celebration. It was well received, and it's always difficult to decide how to pitch it, but I think we pitched it right. It was all about our current projects and what we're about.
Yeah, and I think that's a refreshing approach, is to look to the future as well, because obviously you've got more growth plans. You mentioned you've got obviously lots of work from all around the world now, and certainly all over the UK, and that's brilliant. So with yourself then as partner, how long have you been within the practice?
Out of the 50, I've done 40 years. So,
okay, wow, yeah, man and boy.
Yeah, so I did have a break where I was with another practice for 5 years, and then came back to weather a storm and never left. So
yes,
so
excellent. Well,
obviously, and we've skipped this. That I'm one of 3 partners.
Yes,
the managing partner is Chris Bolland, and my other partner is Phil Malthouse, and the 3 of us have had a really good last 5 years, I'd say, where everything's all in line. We think the same. We have the same goals, and it's a happy ship.
Good, and that actually comes through from the level of work that I'm going to share for you. Your clear passion and the fact you've been there for the best part of 40 years. You're celebrating 50 years. The other partners have done similar length of time. It's just that shines through. I speak to hundreds of practices. Bearing in mind, I've been doing this kind of thing since the 90s myself. And your passion and drive for the future is very apparent, and that's really good to see.
Well, if I pick you up there, then I think that obviously is a massive difference to the way we practice architecture now than we did 50 years ago. And whilst some architects will lament that the architect is not effectively the leader of the team anymore, and we've given our services away to QSs and project managers, I think on reflection that the practice of architecture, or the practice of construction, is very, very much different. It's far more specialised now than it was 50 years ago. 50 years ago, a very astute architect probably could be the master of everything in a general knowledge of all aspects of construction. That is not possible today. Not only do we have increased technology and specialisation of construction methods, but obviously we've got the legislation, and obviously recently the Building Safety Act, which is a vast amount of data to be understood and monitored all at the same time. And therefore, the fact that we do have facade engineers that we never had 50 years ago, the fact that we have project managers who are project managing very complex, large schemes, I think it is a reality of where we are. Having said all that, obviously the architect is key to the design, the concept, the starting point. And I think it's what we do as a practice is we see it through to completion. So we are involved in all of the detail, and therefore, the knowledge of how the building is being put together and satisfying the brief is absolutely paramount.
So you don't have a team then of in-house structural engineers or whatever you
No. We've had interior designers, and we still do to some extent, which obviously helps with the leisure projects. But no, we find our client would prefer to work with the teams that they work with. Therefore, the teams change to suit the client. And there's benefits in that, because the client then has a relationship with people that's long-standing, we find that if we're working with that same client, we have that same relationship with those consultants, and therefore we do over a period of time and a period of projects become one team in effect.
Okay. And talking about the here and now and your plans, what are your most kind of current, in your view, your most exciting, if you will, projects you're working on right now, whether it be Asia or here in the UK, that you could mention?
I would say, obviously, the build to rent residential and the student residential, be it high rise, does add a buzz to life, because obviously you are changing the skyline of cities and cityscape. So there is a buzz in that. What buildings excite me? I would say, obviously, hospitality. The hotels, restaurants. They naturally are going to have an element of glamour about them. But of course, it's something that changes with fashion.
Of course, yeah. And with your 50 years experience, you've seen a lot. You've certainly, the practice is must be very good, a very proud moment for you to walk around and point out these huge buildings that you've designed and been involved in. That's quite something.
I used to my wife and my children, but they've long since got bored.
I'm sure not, but well, look, John, if you can, then, because obviously now, podcast aside, I want to see some of these projects, because my magazine promotes the work of architects. In the main, my background historically is the marketing and recruiting of architectural practices for nearly 3 decades now, basically. Recruitment became very expensive for practices to carry out. You need an architect, you go to an agent. Historically, you'd have to spend at least $5,000 to find somebody. I came up with a new model where, using my reach, I've got over 12,000 followers on LinkedIn. So I was posting on your behalf, say, right, Brock Carmichael need an architect. I would have potential candidates come to me, and I was only charging £200. So I went completely against everything I've done for 30 years. And that model took off overnight, because it was only £200. So I would fill your vacancies for £200, as opposed to you spending $5,000 or $6,000. And then, because that works so very well, just using my reach on LinkedIn, I started to have those same practices I was recruiting for saying, well, look, actually, we're doing all these amazing projects, but we've got nowhere to showcase them. We haven't got any followers on LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever. So I was like, okay, I'm going to use my architectural vacancies platform to extend it further and create Architecture Vogue, an online magazine, where I can promote practice projects as well as vacancies. So I created Architecture Vogue. Yeah, I'm going up against Design, Reba, Architects Journal, whoever, all the big boys. But I still only charge £100 to promote the work of practices. I share it across my network. Tens of thousands of people get to see your work. And it's 4 projects for £100. So it's only £25 a project. If you were to put your 50th year anniversary article in Architects Journal, it will cost you £1,500.
Oh, easily.
John, thank you very much for taking your time to come to me today. I appreciate you're a busy man, and very interesting chat that we've had. The work that you've done the past 50 years and the future is very good, I can see. And I thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for listening to An Interview with an Architect. Please remember to subscribe and follow for more.